right until dawn.
Hey, what's up guys? My name's Joel from Easy Engineering and welcome back to another video. So coming from a Psytrance background, I only feel that's right that I give you a look into how I make my Psytrance kick and bass. I'm usually making the darker, harder, faster styles of Psytrance. If you like that kind of music, then I'll link a link down below to my SoundCloud channel and you can go take a look at all the releases that I've done on there. I've done a few releases with a few record labels around the world. But today I'll be slowing it down quite a lot and giving you just that standard kick and bass at 145 in Psytrance. So with that being said, let's get right into the video. Okay, cool. So now that we have Ableton open, we can get started. But before we do that, I just want to give a quick shout out to ABLETON. He's the one who actually taught me the processing behind making this kick and bass. If you haven't heard of ABLETON, if you haven't heard of his music before, I definitely recommend going and checking his stuff out. He makes more of the harder, darker, faster styles of Psytrance. So I'll leave a link in the description below to his SoundCloud if that's something you want to go check out. Anyway, we'll start with using Nicky Romero's kick to make our kick, but what we'll do is we'll use a preset that I've already made, which is found in my latest sample pack, which is actually for free download. I'll leave a link in the description below to go download it, so go check it out. There's a lot of different sounds in there, ranging from Psytrance sounds to dubstep sounds to house sounds, techno sounds, and even drum and bass sounds. So definitely go check it out and download it for free. Now let's go right ahead here and just start drawing our notes for our kick. Now the kick was made in G, so we'll just keep it in G and we'll lay down a standard 4x4 pattern. Now we'll be using Serum for this tutorial. I tend to use VB1 because I just love the sound of VB1, but for the sake of this tutorial we'll use Serum. Now let's go ahead and just draw in our standard Psytrance bass line. Now what I tend to do is shorten the length of the notes. What you can do is just kind of create a variation of the note lengths. This is just to create a different kind of flow rhythm between the, in the bass line, just to add a little bit more variety to it. Alright, cool. So now we'll use a saw wave. This is pretty much standard for all Psytrance bass lines, and what you need to do is bring down the random phase, because this makes it resets the phase, so it makes sure that every time a note hits, the phase will be starting at the same place. This is also a good idea to bring down the phase to 0, because this kind of shows at what phase of the waveform will the note be starting at. So I just tend to have it at 0. Next, what you need to do is put on a low pass filter. So we'll put on an 18 low pass filter and we'll drop the cutoff down to 0, bring up the drive to around 14-15%, and bring up the fat just around halfway. Next, what you need to do is we need to modulate the cutoff of the filter. So we'll put on envelope 2, we'll bring down the sustain to 0, and we'll just have the envelope a little bit less over there, and we'll just play around with the decay just to kind of find a sweet spot of what sounds good to us. Awesome. Now what I tend to do is I tend to have my kick and bass grouped together just to monitor the total output of both, and I try and aim for -12 dB. This is just to have consistency and headroom for later on in the mix. So it seems to be hitting at a decent volume for now. Now what I tend to do is I will tend to put an EQ on. There's no more need to do anything else in Serum. We're not doing any internal processing or anything like that. All the processing is done externally. So what I do is I whack on EQ and I'll just get rid of the low end frequencies of the bass. So what I tend to do is put it on the root note frequency. So our root note is G, and so I'll put it on G, and I'll just, what this does is just cutting out all the low end frequencies that we don't want. This is usually to clear up any muddiness that will happen with the kick and just make it sound a little bit more cleaner and tighter. Now there's also some unwanted frequencies found between 250 Hz to around 600 Hz. So I'm just going to do a frequency sweep and just try and find the troubled frequencies that I want to get rid of. So around 300 Hz, just get rid of them, just drop it by maybe 3 dB. Cool. What I'll also do is I'll just roll off some of the highs because there's a little bit of a click that I just want to try and get rid of. Awesome. Now what I've noticed is that the Serum is sounding a little bit too thin. The bass is sounding a little bit too thin. So what I'll do is I'll actually add in an R bass, which is a Waves plugin. This is kind of like a low frequency saturator. So you can see it starts at 32 Hertz and only ends at 256 Hertz. So what we want to do is we want to zone in on our root note frequency, which is around 49 Hertz. And what we're going to do is bring down the intensity quite a lot. So bring it down to maybe -16, because this thing is a beast. And if you have the intensity too high, it's just going to overpower it and make it sound it's just going to make it sound ugly. So I kind of have it at around -16 dB. Now if you can notice that it's just kind of beefed up the low end of the sound a little bit, made it sound a lot more fatter. Cool. Next, what I'll add is a multiband compressor. I use Waves C6 multiband compressor. It's one of my favorite plugins from Waves. And what I've got to do is kind of just zone in on that treble frequency area a little bit more and just control it just a little bit more. So what I tend to do is just drop it like this and have a short or fast release. You don't want the compressor to be active for too long because the notes are really short. It's very short bass notes. So what you want to do is just kind of have it at a short or medium release and have a fast attack, and then just try and control these frequencies. See what it's doing, it's controlling the rumble of the low end frequencies. That's definitely going to be clashing with the kick. So it's just tightening up and cleaning up the low end frequencies of the kick and bass a little bit more. Next, what I'm going to do is go in and control the high frequencies of the bass a little bit more. Nothing too crazy, but also have a faster release, and then just go in and try and control it a little bit more. Cool. Now I still don't really like the click of the bass, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this frequency band. I'm going to drop the gain of it, and then I'm just going to try and control it a little bit more. But what I'll do is have a slower release on this compressor, because I wanted to kind of control these frequencies for a lot longer. There we go, that's sounding a lot better now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to A/B and make sure that what I've done is actually helping out what I'm trying to do rather than making it worse. See what it's doing is just cleaning up the sound, tightening it up and making it sound better, so it's actually doing what I intended to do. Next, what I'm going to go and do is I'm going to add in a saturator just to brighten up the harmonics a little bit more, just to make it a little bit more brighter, fatter. And what I tend to use is FabFilter Saturn, and I just put on this preset gentle saturator, and what it does is it just brightens up the mid-range frequencies a little bit more and makes it just makes it sound a lot nicer. Yeah, it makes it more fuller, I think. Next, what I'm going to go and do is I'll put in another EQ and just kind of try and get rid of any more unwanted frequencies that I might have missed out on, or, you know, due to all these processing, there might have been, you know, artifacts made or anything like that, or all the harmonics, you know, that have been added. I'm going to try and see if there's anything that I can see. So I'm going to do another frequency sweep just to find any unwanted frequencies that I can get rid of. So already at 700 Hertz I can hear, so I'm just going to get rid of that stuff and just drop it by maybe 3 dB again. Yeah, you can hear a massive difference. Cool, now this is done all before we've done some sidechain compression. So next I'll do some sidechain compression. And yeah, a lot of people tend to use LFO tool. I still just use sidechain compression, but I know LFO tool is very useful. It actually works very well. But what I tend to do is have a very fast attack and a very slightly longer, maybe medium release on the compressor, just around maybe 15 to about 25 milliseconds, somewhere around there. Just try and find that sweet spot and make sure that everything is kind of working well together. Oh right, I haven't actually sidechained to come. There we go. Oh, there we go. Now it's sidechaining. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just drop the kick a little bit, bring up, just make sure that it's still hitting at around minus 12 dB. There we go. Now what I've noticed is that the kick is sounding a little bit thin. There's no real weight behind it, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually EQ it and just bring out the weight and presence a little bit more. First, what I do is I roll off some of the low end just to kind of tighten up that low range frequency area. I mean, it's only 10 hertz, so you can't really hear it, but it still just kind of tightens it up. And next, if you want to bring some weight to a kick, it's usually found between 60 hertz to 110 hertz. So I'm just going to do a frequency sweep again and just try and find that sweet spot. So there you go, at around 76 to around 80 hertz. I'll just put it in, I'll meet halfway and go 78. And what I'll do is I'll boost it by 2 dB. It just brings out the punch, the weight of the kick a little bit more. Now in a kick there's also some kind of boxiness that's found at around the low mid-range frequency area, usually between 250 to 450 hertz. So just do another frequency sweep and find they're around 360 hertz. So just kind of drop those out. Just gets rid of that boxiness and brings out the punch a little bit more. And also, if you want to bring out the presence and make the kick cut through the mix a little bit more, it's you got to boost around 2 kilohertz to around 5 kilohertz. So just do another frequency sweep and find that sweet spot of your kick. So around there, sounding good. I'll boost it by maybe 1.5, nothing too crazy, and then just roll off the highs a little bit more. Also nothing too crazy, around 24 hertz, just over there. Now what I'm going to do is A/B it and just see if it actually done what I wanted it to do, or has it made it sound worse or better. Let's just. So yeah, as you can see, it's kind of made the kick a lot more punchier, a lot more tighter too. You got rid of the boxiness a little bit more. Now also what you need to do is make sure that it's actually working within the mix. You know, you're not going to be listening to your kick and bass on its own the entire time. So what I've done is I've laid down some hi-hats over here just to make sure that, you know, within the whole mix your processing is actually sounding what you want. It's sounding good, it's sounding how you want it to sound. So let's just try that out now and see if it works. Cool. Yeah, I like the sound of that. I think it's sounding really well. I think it's sounding really good. There might not be a need for R bass, or, you know, like this is my standard processing chain, but I might not use R bass in a bass. I might take it out, I might leave it. You know, there also might not be a need for the multiband compressor or the saturator. It all depends on what the sound calls for and what the sound really needs. But this is generally my standard bass processing effects that I use in this order too. So yeah, this is it for my kick and bass. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you found it useful. If you did, please leave a like or comment down below, and if you want to see any more of these videos, then please hit that subscribe button. There'll be plenty more videos coming. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you in the next one.